Welcome to episode number 38. How is everyone doing?
Boom, there it is.
Boom, boom.
So
Happy
you're here
Friday,
with
guys.
myself, Olu, Shuel, Daniel, Pabilo. How's everyone's week been?
Been great, man. Great as always. Can I just say a very quick thing before we jump into the topic and everything? Big thank you to all our listeners. Thank you for all the engagement on Instagram. Thank you for continuing to support us on whichever platform you're listening to. I would highly recommend, and I would be deeply grateful, not just me, but Olu, Pabilo, Daniel, all of us would be very grateful if whatever platform you're listening to Take Flight Podcast on, please subscribe. Please give us 5 stars. Even if you think it's 1 star, give us 5 star anyway. And please continue to support it. Tag us in your stories when you're listening to it. We're getting really great feedback, great interaction, and we just really hope it continues. So thank you so much for all of that.
Indeed. So on this week's episode, we are going to be talking about work-life balance.
This is going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I can already.
I can't wait. And then the book review will be done by Daniel. So stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
So, what is this word? Work-life balance. What does it mean?
So this conversations around this because I have a friend and listener in the US, and we're having a conversation, and she was basically telling me, like, she's 25, and she was telling me, we're having on the phone. She's like, it's an hour and 15 or an hour and a half drive to work. So she leaves home around 7, I believe, and she gets to work for about 8:30.
1 hour. Where is she?
That's a
Where's
long
she?
commute.
What state?
Whoa.
And where she drive?
Atlanta. In Atlanta.
Is it traffic?
ATL, baby.
Sometimes the traffic can be from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on traffic.
But it takes me an hour to get to work in London as well. In London.
Yeah, but
you drive.
Yeah, I drive.
But that's, that's
traffic.
But
Traffic is traffic more. Yeah.
okay, so 7. Yeah, I think she's at the house by around 7 o'clock, and then she doesn't get home till about 8:30 because she's in the office till about 7. Due to the nature of the business, people don't leave on time, and they have an office in New York, so the people in New York don't see it as a problem. They just think, it's just normal 12-hour days, blah blah blah. So I said to her, wait, from 7 to 8:30, I thought I was bad, but then she's telling me, I was like, so when do you live? She goes, I know, right? So she said, it'd be interesting for you guys to talk about work-life balance and how you manage things, especially in your earlier 20s, because typically speaking, when you're younger, you're encouraged to really work hard as a young professional, to be recognized for promotions and to really be like, I'm really part of this company. I want to succeed. I want to thrive. And that's the only way you're going to get promotions and to be noticed and to be recognized by senior management and to be put forward for opportunities. So she wanted our take on how did we navigate that, and also what is it like now. So that's the context to this conversation. So I know you've got a lot to say, Pete and Ollie. So
No, I think we can all agree, and we can set the scene by saying that work-life balance is a lie, it's a myth, and it doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist in the way in which people think. And I think wait,
stop there. Would you say it doesn't exist unless you're like a philanthropist or like a Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, where the work-life balance is completely different because you're continuing to be making money from your investments, etc., that you have that suitable balance where you can just offload and just kind of sit back and relax?
But even what you just described there is not balanced. You're shifting your priority from one to the other. So the thing is, the first thing I think we have to do is debunk this entire concept of balance. Like what? Because I think people have this notion of, okay, balance is
no work.
Either no work and then all play, or I don't do a lot of work but I play more listen, it's so
It's
I think
easy to have a work-life balance when you don't work. Like you could easily you
the
could
thing
cut
is-
out like
the thing
you
is,
cut out that work
with-
element.
the thing is with that, you're not working. So
Exactly.
is it balanced? So it's not the balance act doesn't it doesn't exist.
But P, you know when you say that, just to understand a bit more, because I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards you. But say if I was a listener, if I was to hear that, then I would think, oh, so does that mean P's expecting to work all the time? And I don't think that's the
No.
message that you're saying, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah, no, and I think because I'm still trying to think, I'm still trying to sort of come up with more examples as to how people describe work-life balance, so what they expect.
Mm.
And I think what would we say before we get into Shaw's question, what would we say the expectations are?
I think for someone in their young 20s, and I think even when we're younger, you're thinking work-life balance. You're thinking, okay, I'm gonna work during the day, and after work, after hours, I have time to myself to enjoy, to do whatever I want without the ramifications of being tired for the next day.
Okay, so I start work at 9.
Yeah,
and I work hard between 9 to 5, and then after 5 I can do what I want.
but we all know that working hard 9 to 5 ain't gonna happen. But
I think everyone has different ways to say what the work-life balance could look at. Like for some people,
let me just finish. The balance is like a whole kind of area for you to do what you want. It's not necessarily to do X, Y, Z. It's to do what you want and to have enough time to do it.
You know what it is? So when I think, go on.
No, Jeff Bezos. They challenged him with this argument because, as you know, Amazon, they especially in the startup days and even probably now, the working hours are crazy. There've been many employees that have complained about the working conditions, and I think he replied by saying, "It's not about work-life balance. It's about work-life harmony." He explained a bit more as well. But I think
it's how you integrate. Yeah, because so when I think about it, so first the question for the listener, I can relate to, because I went through a period of that time when I was a consultant for 3 years where the hours were crazy. We'd get into office at 8. You'd leave the office at maybe 7 to go for dinner. Then you'll be working from 9 till maybe 11 p.m. And then you'll work Monday to Friday. Sunday, you typically do a half day as well. So you work half day. So I can relate with what that person is going through in regards to feeling like you're not having a balance. Yeah. But the way I try to think about it is work-life balance does not exist. And I see it more as integrating work with your life. So it's not about, because I don't feel like she would care if she was doing those hours or even getting in later. If, let's say, 1 hour during the day, she can go and do some errands, do whatever she wanted to do, come back. It's like, how do you integrate
the flexibility?
The flexibility is what the issue is. Like, if she had to work those hours but could go to Bali and do those, and work from there and still get the work done, she probably wouldn't be complaining. So it's like, how do you have that work-life integration where you can integrate work-life harmony?
Yeah, I like that.
And I think that's the part where a lot of people struggle.
But then it's not necessarily people; it's the companies.
The company's not going to solve this problem, and this is where I keep going back. Remember that episode when I was like, government, it needs to start the top.
But companies need to encourage it. And if you don't see it from managers, your immediate superior, how can you then say you want to do something? For example, a couple of weeks ago, there was that kind of rainstorm in London, and tube stations were closed because of flooding. Liverpool Street was absolute manic. I was impacted to get home. Imagine the thousands of commuters that were impacted.
Yeah.
And with people, but it's not even just that. People face this on a daily basis. But companies don't say, I know, of course, you choose where you want to live, you choose where you work. So no one's forcing you to do so. But at least allow some degree of flexibility to say, oh, you can, I know some companies, some managers, like, if you need to work from home. I don't care. You don't need to let me know. Just work from home. I trust you get the job done. There's always that element of trust until the trust is broken. But not everyone gives that same degree of flexibility to say, it's my child's parents' evening on Tuesday. I'm afraid to tell my boss, can I leave an hour earlier because I don't know what they say, but
Because
then again, I stay in the office
unfortunately-
an hour every single day,
Mm-mm.
3 times a week.
Because unfortunately, Daniel, is like if you leave that decision to a commercial business, let's be honest, the way businesses work is let me try and get the most legally possible out of my employees. Like they're not gonna say, hey, let me figure out how to make Daniel Shuel Olupi more happy. No, it's gonna be how can I legally get the most out of this person for how much I pay them.
But I agree, but also disagree, because I feel like companies like the likes of Google, Facebook, and these technology companies are starting to realize that yes, they want to get the most out of you, but they also want you to feel a sense of belonging. That they want low staff turnover. That they give you that flexibility to work wherever you want in the world, as long as you get the work done.
Okay, yes
And
or
I
no?
feel like,
The reason why I say yes or no,
I say that because at present it might not be a big problem, but come on, with these we are millennials, but with like the younger generation, and you know their kind of work ethic, they don't want to do anything, but they want to get paid. In 10 years time, come on, it's real.
And I think that's why so many companies are trying to focus on it, because in 10 years' time, people are just going to say screw it. But if you look at like historically, what corporations' solution to work-life balance is what? Dress down Friday. Like how does dress down Friday solve work-life balance? Like it's one of those things. Yeah, corporations, even like in America, where they say, "Oh, we're not gonna have a fixed amount of vacation time. We're just gonna
Tackle Tuesdays.
We're gonna trust you in regards to but in regards to like in America, where they say we're not gonna mandate how many vacation days you actually take. We're gonna say you can take as many days as you want, as long as you get your work done. They've actually proven, stats has proven that by them doing that, people take less days than when they had like the mandated days, because people feel the pressure of, no, I've got to show that I'm working. I need to show that I'm doing more than the other person. So in regards to that, for me, it's less about work-life balance, and it's how do you integrate your work with your life. And at the end of the day, is how do you ensure that you are happy? Because for me, it's not about someone could do 12 hours shift, 13-hour shift, but feel like they're happy. I would say that person has got the work-life balance. Someone could do 5 hours, 6 hours, have zero flexibility and not be happy, and say that their work-life balance is not there. So for me, it's work-life balance. And with our corporation, I can't remember the name of the guy that did this. We had a conference and this guy came to talk, and I wish he used to work for Coca-Cola. I can't remember his name, but he was saying that the problem with society is we try to juggle different balls, too many balls. And this is what I struggled with when it came to balance. So forget about work-life balance, but just balance in general. So this guy was saying that in life, you can only really manage, I think he said 4, maximum 5 responsibilities. You can only fit 4 or 5 positions in life. So one of them will be your work. Work is one position that you have to carry. Next one could be sports. You might work out, go to a gym. That's a role responsibility. The next one could be your family. So family member. The next one could be a father. Yeah. The next one, then the problem you start to deal with when you get to juggling 4 balls is people then try to add on more stuff. And then they say, oh, I don't have work-life balance, because you're trying to juggle so many balls where you're like, oh, I still want a social life. I still want to talk to my friends and everything like that. So then you reach a point where you're just overwhelmed and you don't feel like you have any balance because you're trying to juggle multiple balls. And I think if people just find a way to say, okay, what are the 4 roles in my life that I want to balance? So if it's work, if it's being an entrepreneur on the side, if it's family, friends, those are the 4 balls I can juggle. And then the rest of the stuff will have to, unfortunately, you have to put to the side, or unfortunately not invest as much time as you want. But that's the only way you could truly be happy, or that's work for me, truly be happy and balance your life. So
okay, I want to go back to help, this listener friend. I can start by saying, when I first started working post university, what it was like for me for working and to enjoy, to socialize with friends, to do whatever I wanted. So my core working hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and that's how it is. So I would leave home.
You don't sound like you're happy about that.
No, the working hours are long. I'm not gonna lie, the working hours are long. It's a general kind of feeling across the company. So But the good and bad thing is, yeah, they're long, but for me, it's all I've known. I've never known a 9 to 5. So I've never known what it's like to have the extra hour in the morning or the extra hour in the evening. I've always worked 8 till 6. So, or now I kind of do 7:30 to 5:30. But so what I would do in evenings, being a single person, I would finish work, go home, go to the gym. I very rarely used to meet up with friends during the week unless it was like a special event or a birthday. It was very rare for me to do so. In some instances, I would go, on a Thursday evening, I would see friends because I think, okay, Friday is more relaxed. There'll be some instances, I was late out on a Thursday and into a Friday. I think one night, I went out with my manager was moving department, went out with my manager and some team members. I got home at 3 a.m. had 3 hours sleep, back in the office 7, 8, bright and chirpy. You know when you're chirpy because you're tired, but you're like this. Your eyes are glued to the screen. Eyes were glued. So, but then weekend, so Friday.
No, that's funny, man. He said, "What is it? Chirpy, Brighton."
Yeah, when you're even afraid to blink because you think you might sleep. My eyes were like this, and the thing is that Friday was quite a crucial day.
Mate, that
because
is
we're going
too much,
to
man.
So what I used to do sometimes on a Friday evening, it might be something where friends doing something, but I might go to that. But I would go to the cinema by myself. That was something I used to look forward to every week. Was go to the cinema by myself and watch a film.
It's sit back on your ones, yeah.
Yeah, on my ones, on my J's. And the thing is, I loved it because it was having such a busy, hectic week. That whole routine, I got a time to sit down and be still. But what used to happen in the cinema was I would fall asleep.
That's an expensive nap,
No. Well, the thing is,
that's an expensive nap.
I'm done. I knew it was coming. I knew that line was coming.
So I end up getting into the cinema and I've eaten. I'll sit down before I always time it to finish off when the trailers are on. Man. I think 10, 15 minutes in, I'm out. And then towards the end, 5 minutes before the end, I'm awake. And that's how it used to be. I remember Equalizer.
I'm not gonna lie. Bro, this is a bit of a sad life still, cuz I'm not gonna lie. That is B.
I used to enjoy it because come on. Think about it.
The thing is, I can picture it now. Yeah, you kind of like dragging your heels to the cinema.
No, I used to look forward to it.
Getting in.
Where would you sit
in the cinema?
Pre-book
in
the
middle,
ticket.
at the end.
I'll sit on the right at the end of the row.
So
I'll pre-book the ticket. I pre-book the ticket. So I would sleep. I watched Equalizer twice because I slept first time.
Let's get serious. Let's get serious.
And then so I would Friday week. I'm not even lying. I remember one time, I think work people saying they're going for drinks. I said, no, I'm going cinema. I've got a ticket. I booked my ticket. I went cinema.
Oh, yo.
So
it sounds like work was making you insane, bro.
No, for me. That was my me time. That was my time to unwind from the week. It was nice. Friday will be my day off. I wouldn't go to the gym on a Friday. It'll be a relaxed day. Have a good lunch. No packed lunch. Have a good lunch. After work, I'm going to cinema, watching this film. Then I'm coming home. And then weekends, I would do X, Y, Z. But the weekends, I would often find myself, meeting up with friends at the weekend or doing something or just relaxing and going to the gym and then Sunday church and then back again for the next week. So that was my balance and I was happy with that. And I found myself typically flying out or going away for weekends or going on holiday. So I always had something to look forward to. So my balance was, okay, I'm working hard, but also I'm enjoying the fruit of my labor by, going away for a weekend, going to a different place, doing this, doing that, having this experience. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't too bothered. However, as time has gone on and as I'm now married, that how it was going to the cinema by myself isn't the same. But also necessarily staying at work late isn't something I necessarily want to do. I want to get home. I want to be home with my wife. Now that my commute to work is longer, it's an hour and a half. I'm getting at home, finishing work at 5:30. I'm home at 7 earliest. And if not, then 7:30. But these and other commitments as well means that trying to balance work with life is somewhat difficult. But during that early stages where you want to be recognized for doing work, you want to be doing good quality work at work, you know, putting in the hours in to be recognized for those promotions. Yeah, they've paid off and paid dividends. But would I say my life was at detriment? I would say no. But if I was to do that now, it would be yes.
No, so I think, I think this work-life harmony concept is what people should be pay more attention to. The work-life balance doesn't exist, and I think with the work-life harmony, as you mentioned, Olu, is how can we best integrate our personal life with our work life? So what that effectively means is taking your side hustle or your property stuff to work and finding an hour or two within your working hours to get that done. Maybe finding the time to speak to a friend during your working hours. But that way you don't feel, because otherwise, if you don't try to do that, you feel like work is taking a lot of your life away. And I think the other thing to this point is it's about managing expectations. I think a lot of times why we get to this point where we think, oh my God, man, like this work is just crazy, it's because we weren't told up front, this is what it's going to look like at certain times of the year. The way I look at it is, I look at it over the course of a year, this January to December. And I've accepted that there will be times in certain times in the year where it's going to be 100% work. There will be no time. There will be no time for friends. There'll be no time for play, or no time to go to the cinema by myself. So, and then there'll be periods in the summertime periods where it will be hardly any work, but then a lot of time for leisure, entertainment, friends, and holiday. And I think that's the way we should perhaps look at it and approach it, in the sense of understanding. This is why I go back to my short question and the point. This is why I say balance doesn't exist, because at any one point in given time, it's either 100% fully focused at work, or I'm actually fully focused on family time and friends, and I'm not trying to do both at the same time. There's a lot of there's a book called, I think we spoke about it, called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and he talks about how this concept of a balanced life is a myth. And some of the things that he says was, he showed a diagram, and he says that nothing great is ever achieved with balance, right? So magic happens on the extreme ends. And then he also says that when you start acting on your priorities, immediately you're out of balance. So if you're 100% focused on work, Olu, you're not focused on your friends. So therefore, and I think we need to understand this and manage that expectation amongst ourselves. And I think that's probably maybe a better way to go.
Sure. What about yourself?
Yeah, I was kind of listening and reflecting a bit about my own experiences, and I think what's challenging, and that's why I laughed. I think when Daniel said that the millennial generation, even though we are millennials, but the younger people coming through don't want to work as much, but they want to earn more money. Now, I'm not going to give my opinion on this, but I think the challenge is that we're kind of in the middle of our previous generation. If you think about our parents, or maybe people a little bit older than us, the idea was you need to work very, very hard to get that promotion, to secure that job. And then the generation coming after, who have seen companies like Google flourish, Facebook, and all these companies. I have friends who work at Google, and I went to their office, and it is amazing what they have. They can spend, I think, 20% of their time to do whatever they want to do. If they want to come out of a meeting and go into a music room and play the instruments, there's a music room there. All food is available. They have time to be creative. You can there's breakout rooms everywhere, coffees, drinks, alcohol, everything's provided for you. Now, the generation coming through has seen companies offer that service, and these are companies that are very, very successful. I think we're kind of in this in between where we've been told all our lives you need to work hard to get to where you want to be, but then on the flip side, we're seeing that actually there's other options. Flexible working, you can do that and still perform well at your job. You can work from home and still get things done. So I think for us, being in this middle period is a challenge. But I was reflecting about my own journey. So my work-life balance, once I started a job, was trying to base it all around energy. So from a work standpoint or life standpoint, what activities at work give me more energy and what takes it away? And from a personal standpoint, when I'm outside of work, because work takes up a lot of my time, I want to make sure I'm doing things that help me feel recharged and give me the energy to keep operating. So from a personal standpoint, where I got a lot of energy from was traveling. So even if I'm working Monday to Friday, like crazy hours, I always made sure on the weekend I was traveling somewhere, had something planned, as Daniel was saying, which you can work towards. And also socializing with friends. That's something that gave me a lot of energy. So I needed to make sure these were planned so I can recharge to that sense. Now, from a work standpoint, if it got to a stage where I was in a role and I wasn't enjoying it, and I realized that actually this isn't giving me as much energy anymore, I know it's easier to say than done, but then I'd start to think, okay, I've probably achieved as much as I can in this role. I need to change jobs. So trying to balance the energy between the two, I think, is important. And if people understand what gives them more versus what takes it away, then once you have that down to your personal preference, then you can kind of work off that.
No, for sure. No, agree. Like, it's I think what P said is you got to realize that it's spikes in your life.
Yeah,
Like, there's going to be crazy times where you're going to have to work hard. When you're starting off your career, if you want that level of acceleration, you're going to need to maybe sacrifice something. You need to sacrifice something and prioritize the work element of it. I think now I'm at a stage where I feel like the last year and a half, it's been my best balance, if I'm honest. Like, I think for the first 5 years after graduating, my life wasn't balanced. Like, number one priority was work. Relationships was suffered, friendships, other stuff suffered. This time I feel like I have, and the company I work for and the team that I work for give me that right balance. But I think the reason why I call it, maybe I'm using the wrong balance, but integration, because I still do long hours.
I wouldn't. I just quickly got on it, just because I know words are powerful. I wouldn't use the word suffered. I would just say that work was a priority. And
no, I'm saying relationships suffered.
But do you think those relationships were a priority at the time, though?
No, but that's so it wasn't a priority because I prioritized work, but it's
something has to give, because when you get the pension,
but then you say suffered, like I don't know if maybe
because it's detrimental.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's just the fact about it. It's suffered. Like, there's some relationships that you can obviously keep, because let's say, for example, if P says, "Oh, I'm busy for a month, 2 months, a year," we'll understand it, and when we get back together, it's like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But you can't always do that with all your relationships and friendships. So, but I was also at that time I understood that that's how it was going to be, sort of thing. And I'll say this period of my life, I've been able to get the right balance based on the integration method. So how do I integrate my life? So I would get into the office at like 8:30, and I'll go to the gym. So I'll start my day off going to the gym, because luckily I've got a gym in my office. I get to my desk around 9:30, 10. So I'll be honest, I get to my desk 9:30, 10. Because
I can tell by them Instagram posts.
I block my calendar. So like in the morning, I know that I'm not going to have any meetings. And sometimes, because I work a lot with the US, a lot of my clients are based in the US. I know that's going to be later in the afternoon. So then I work at lunchtime. I might spend half an hour, whatever, on one of my side hustles. So be on my computer, working on side business, etc., etc. Then I'll work and I'll stay into the office until maybe 6, 7. So I'll make sure that because one thing I like to do that also is the fact that the traffic and everything, I don't like to drive during rush hour. So why spend an hour in traffic where you can stay an extra hour and only spend half an hour getting home? So I stay later. And on a Thursday, for example, Tuesday, I'll stay in the office until 8 p.m. because I play football at 9 p.m. So I'm like, let me just stay in the office and just catch up on the hours that maybe I've missed because of the morning.
Yeah.
But I love it because I feel like I've got complete balance. I'm able to see friends. I'm able to do side hustles. I'm able to work out. Everything's integrated, and it's maybe not the traditional 9 to 5, which if I was on a fixed 9 to 5, I probably would have hated. And I'll be like, oh, I don't have work-life balance. Where right now I work longer hours than that, but because I'm able to integrate everything.
That's what I'm trying to say, that you have a company that allows that, because not every organization, company, or every role, should I say, would allow you to start work at 10 o'clock.
But
they'll never say no for you to stay longer in the office, but they'll never always say yes to say start.
But I think, do you feel like also it's because, so I agree with you, some roles you can't do that. For example, if you're a doctor or whatever and you need to be in, you can't be strolling in at 10. But I feel like there are a lot of roles that do, but people just don't stand up and talk. Exactly. And people are afraid, because some people do FaceTime.
The other problem, go on, sure.
No, I was just gonna to add that I think I lean a bit more with Olu on this particular part, because if you're doing a job that doesn't give you that flexibility, and just coming back to the energy part, if it doesn't give you that flexibility and you know that you need to have that flexibility, you want to come into the office at 10 and leave later sometimes. Or as Olu was saying, have a few mornings where you can go to the gym. If that is something that gives you energy and being in the office at 9 or 8 doesn't, then I think it's down to the individual. If the company doesn't want to be flexible, and you've raised this point, then if it's really important to you, then you should try to find another job. Otherwise you're not really helping yourself. I mean, you can raise it, ask the company, I want to have it, and if they still don't give it to you, and it's something that's very, very important to you as an individual, then you have to just look elsewhere.
And it's one of those things that we have so much choice, Joel, and I hate that. It's like a lot of times we feel like we're stuck in a particular role or job.
Yeah.
And so many times it's like, okay, this company does not meet my needs in terms of flexibility and hours and understanding. Okay, apply for another job. Like other companies might offer it. Obviously, like I say, there's some roles where there's no flexibility. If you are a doctor and you need to be in the hospital at a certain time and leave at a certain time, you can't be like, oh, I'm in the gym when there's a patient that needs you. There's some roles.
One of the issues with this conversation is the fact that we are compartmentalizing work and outside of work life. And so what we're basically alluding to, as soon as I get to my desk, it's dead. I don't want to be there. And I think this is the issue. Why can't we start to look at it from a sense of, from the moment I wake up to the moment I sleep, I get the most out of my day. To Joel's point, I'm able to use my energy where I need to use it. So if you have a great morning routine and you get yourself to the gym and then you get to the office, but once you get to the office, if you've got things that you've scheduled that you can do that are also related to your personal life plus get work done, I think the issue, then that will help. I think the issue is seeing it as, well, that's work and that's my life. And whenever I'm at work, I don't like it. So I want to just because otherwise what you do is you despise it. And from the moment you're there, you've got a screw face. From the moment you leave, and that's not helping either yourself nor the company. So, and let's also keep in mind that we're supposed to be adding value to ourselves and also to organizations that we're working for. So whereas we're supposed to be, the magic is supposed to happen from 9 till 5. So why are we kind of looking forward to sort of going home or wanting that home time? And when I get home at 8, I don't really have much of an evening, man, because I got to be in bed by 10. Or you know what, I'm going to stay up till 1 because I don't feel like I had much of an evening. So it's what I'm trying to say. So I think the question is, from the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep, how can we make the most of our day with or without work?
And it's like some people like after work, I'm like, why don't you just go out? Like there's some people that rush to go home, and I'm like, what are you rushing home for? What are you rushing home to do? And it's like, oh, all I do. And I'm like, yo, you want a work-life balance? Let's say, for example, advice for your friend would be like, during the week, is she able to stay out later in terms of meet up with a friend, go to a museum, go to an exhibition, do something after work where it takes you outside of that routine of...
It's Atlanta. Where are you going to go at that time?
Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for 8 months.
Where did you go?
There's a lot to do in Atlanta.
I'm sure.
I love my time in Atlanta.
Oh, did you? Oh, did you?
That KOD annual fee.
Olu, did you?
I don't know about KOD or all those places. I'm talking about
did you?
galleries and all sorts.
Oh yeah?
Olu was out there charging fees, cuz.
There's lots of different exhibitions out there that are very entertaining. I support artists, all artists.
Yeah, there's lots. All right, cool. Say nothing.
Okay, no, but on a serious note,
but Olu, yeah, you can do things after work, but how about if work is like, sometimes work is mentally draining, that you're physically tired or mentally tired, that it's a struggle to even drive home. You don't always have that same that drive to do it. But then I was gonna say, it all comes down to doing something you enjoy doing, and the reason I say that is, we have 2 friends who are both lawyers at both quite senior levels, and I remember talking to one of them. They're a married couple, and he said he gets into work for about 8:30, and then he'll leave about 6 to go and pick up their children. but then he would get back at home and he'll work from about 8 or so. They'll have dinner together. He'll work from 8 to about midnight.
Yeah.
And then he's up again at 5 and doing a routine for the next day. Weekends, he said he tries, or Sundays he won't work, but Saturdays at some point he'll work. And then his wife, she's a bit more flexible. She gets to the office maybe about 9:30, 10. She'll leave the office about 8 or so, 7, 6, get home, but then she'll work till about 1, 2 in the morning. And then on Saturdays, she works from about 6 p.m. to midnight. And then Sundays again, she'll work in the evening. And I was like, how, with 2 kids, I was like, how do you do it? Because for me, it was like, I thought mine was tough, but then hearing what they do, well, they obviously love their job. That's the profession they've chosen and what they really enjoy doing. But it just comes about managing your time effectively, making sure, they spend time as a family, they have dinner as a family, but also they knew that they're both very dedicated to their jobs and their work, but it's something they enjoy doing. So although it's time consuming, especially with traveling like every other week for work, they've managed between themselves to come to some balance. I'm sure, or as P would say, some harmony.
But I think that's the key point, Daniel, is the person who's viewing this challenge, are they really because with work you're spending a big proportion of your life doing it, right? So if you're not enjoying it, then something needs to be changed. Because how many times have we done something that we love and we don't even look at the clock and time just flies? The other day, me and Pabila were talking about property stuff, and we're both waking up just before 5 a.m. and we're talking, and then we started talking at say 11 p.m. Next thing you know, it's 1:30, and we didn't even realize how late it got.
Oh, really? Really? I got a question. Do you love this podcast?
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Love it. You know what I love doing? You know what I love doing? You know what I love doing? I love doing video edits. That's what I love, bro. That's what I love. That's what I love, bro.
The thing is, it's not only about does it do you enjoy it, but does it fill you up? Because it's also very difficult. Again, it's about managing expectations, and I don't want to make it. I wouldn't want to tell someone you always do what you enjoy, because it's not always possible. But can you find
how many people actually do what they enjoy?
It's very, very few. The thing is, you can enjoy parts of what you do, but to enjoy it as a whole is very difficult. But what I will say is, is what you're doing filling you up? Everybody knows when they're being challenged in the right direction, and it's actually helping them grow as a person. And I think if that's happening, that's actually a great place to be. If you're not, and you're thinking, and you feel like you're not in the place where it is helping you, the other way to look at it to maybe not feel so bad is just keep in mind that not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting the company's time, right? And so it's a good way to look at it. It's a two-way street. So it's obviously worth exploring options and moving to another corporation if you feel where you are now doesn't satisfy whatever needs you're looking for. Because also, if I'm hiring you as a person, I wouldn't want to keep you if I know you're not fully engaged. So it's a mutual feeling.
But I think, Daniel, with the friend where you said, what if they don't have they're mentally drained? I'll say listen to your body. So there are certain times where, yes, you should go back home, relax, unwind, and mentally disconnect. But I would also say you'll be surprised how doing something that you enjoy can actually help you mentally to relax. So let's take, for example, I could be completely drained, physically drained from work, mentally drained from work. And Tuesday night, when I hit that football pitch at 9 p.m., I forget about it.
Yeah, I had Olu is a combination of Obafemi Martins and Yakubu. So
and a little bit of Canu.
He will score.
Canu when he was at Arsenal, or Canu now? Canu in 2019 or Canu back in the night?
Canu in Arsenal.
No way. Canu got finesse cards. You're not. No, that's you.
He's got that R2.
He's got that R2 card. Only got
that. But no, on a realness, like by finding a hobby that you could do after work, you'll realize how mentally that could help you sort of recharge. So I would still encourage your friend, like, okay, yes, I understand that you're doing 10 hours, 12 hours day shifts. But how do you integrate your life? So what do you do on your lunch, that 1 hour break?
Mm.
Are you just sitting in the office, etc.? And then also I asked the person, don't be afraid to change the culture in your company in terms of FaceTime. So what it sounds like she mentioned was that it sounds like it's part of the culture where people stay on to 8 p.m. or stay on to late. And I asked her the question, does she truly have work to do to stay on to that time? Because I remember when I was a consultant, some people used to give me a hard time.
She's at a management consultancy. So yeah, there you go.
No, because when I was a consultant, there would be people that would just stay in the office for the sake of staying in the office. And I used to get frustrated. Like, no, you don't know how much. I remember one time, yeah, we had a presentation to the CEO.
Oh, you look disgusted, man.
No, because this is the area where culturally needs to change. Like it needs to be, we need to start looking at people based on their output versus how much time they spend in the office. And I remember one time we had a CEO presentation, so we were all in Atlanta doing crazy hours. And it was like 1 p.m. No, sorry, 1 a.m. It was 1 a.m. 1 a.m. I'd been in the office all day. 1 a.m. We're back in the office again the next day at like 7, 8. So there 1 a.m. I finished everything I'm gonna do. Yeah, finished everything, slides, order, analysis, etc. I stand up to be like, okay, cool, it's time. The rest of the people there, I was like, okay, it's time for me to dip. One of the managers was like, oh, where you going? I looked at the time of
the cheek.
Yeah, he's like, where you going?
He thought if we go toilet.
I looked at I packed my bag. I had my bag on. I was like, see you guys later. 1 a.m. He was like, where you going? I was like, where do you think I'm going?
As well.
I was like, it's 1 a.m. Where do you think I'm going? Like, I'm going home to like sleep.
Wait, was this in Atlanta? I mean, at 1 a.m. there's a few places that you can go to.
I was like, yo, I'm going home to sleep. And the guy was like to me, oh, have you finished what you did it like the? And I was like, yeah, I've sent it to you. Here is all my things done. You quickly looked at it. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, we can find more things for you to do. And I was like,
oh my god.
I was like, you could find more things to do for anyone. Like if I were to work 24/7, I could work 24/7. You could. So I said,
there's always work to do. Yeah,
there's always work to do. So I was like, look, this is a priority. This is what needs to be done. I'm out. I left. I went. Came back the next day. Had like the thing, and like I just kept going on with it. And I realized that unless you're willing to
stand up,
take a stand, people are just gonna take advantage from you.
Yeah.
And I remember some people in my workplace used to say, "Oh, Olu doesn't work." Like, and I was like, "No, I just can't stay in the office where people are cracking jokes at 8, 9 p.m., laughing and not doing the work that they need. Like, being in this office is not fun. Like, it's not fun to just be here. Like, don't do FaceTime, man. I'm not a fan of FaceTime."
Quick question, Olu, just to help me validate a point. That manager, does he have a family, or does she have a family?
But you remember when we were consulting, what happened is, which lots of companies do, is they move you around. So we were all in Atlanta for a 4 months period. So you're not there with your family or friends.
Right.
So when you're away from your family or friends, you feel like the only thing that you have to do is work, and you just dive into work. And I'm like, yes, I'm all for going through periods of time, because I remember that whole week, yeah, was a crazy week where we're leaving the office at one. Like, I remember Friday night, yeah, a few of my friends messaged me and they're like, yo, Olu, do you want to go out? And I was like, yo, I'm drained, man. I've been
Swipe.
I'm like, I'm drained. I'm drained. Like, this week has been, and they were like, no, you need to come out. So I end up going out. Go to the club. I end up crashing on someone's sofa, just like completely falling asleep on someone's sofa. On a Saturday morning, I get a phone call at 9 a.m. saying, "Hey, Olu, we sent you a bunch of emails. Can you respond to the slides?"
No, that's
really? But
that's the thing. That's a very extreme. It's a very extreme.
But also, I understood that was a period of time. So I went through that week, but there was other times where I would leave the office at 4, whatever. Like, if there's nothing to do, I'm a firm believer in, there's nothing to do, I'm not staying in this office and just pretending like I've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out, go to an art gallery, go to this place, live life, because you got to have that balance or integration where you're like, okay, this is a week, 2 weeks where I know it's going to be crazy. Next 2 weeks or whatever, it's not going to be crazy. So I'm not going to just be sitting in the office and doing FaceTime. So I go back to what was my point, and is get your friend to also challenge the system. But when I say challenge the system, it needs to be based on results as well. Like if you're someone that's not getting your work done, but still leaving at 5, 4, whatever, then that can't run. But if you are getting your responsibilities and you're going above and beyond, and because you're being productive, then feel free to leave and go. Because I remember when I was a manager, what I would do is I would leave because I would allow my team to feel like they don't have to stay around. They don't have to stay around. So I would pack my bag at like 6 and leave because I didn't want to be that guy that's just staying there. Even though I had work to do, I'd go back to my hotel room and do it. But I didn't want them to feel like they had to stay there just because I was in the office. But if I had an employee in my team who wasn't showing the results, we'll sit down and say, hey, like, I've been flexible with you, but you're not showing the results. So you can't be picking up your bag, leaving at 5 or whatever if you're not showing the results, sort of thing. So yeah, it's about breaking that FaceTime.
Yeah, the other tip, Daniel, for your friend to keep in mind, not only for her career now, but throughout her time, and for all of us, is it's also worthwhile, not only when you pick your company or which company you want to work for, but the manager who you work under. Because if you want more of a, let's say, work-life balance or work-life harmony, go with someone who has a family, because that helps, or someone who's very outgoing, who also prioritizes sports. Because if you do it as well, then it's that person can better defend you, and it can also bring you along. So, but where I think it can be tricky is if you sometimes work for people where they don't have a family, they're not really interested in doing things outside work. Your life can become a product of theirs.
Work is life for them. Some people, like work is the work is their identity. Okay, thank you. I'll pass that on. She'll listen, she'll hear it, and she'll give feedback. Sure, anything you want to add or say?
No, I was just actually reflecting, just on the flip side, because I feel like all of us have said we've worked long times in like for a long period of time in a job and we hated it. But I was thinking when I was in Japan, I got a lot of energy of the fact that I was in a new job, I was in a new country, and I was learning a lot of things. But there were some days in the month, I know I've had conversation with Pabula about it, where I was working like a madman, where I'd come into the office at 8, 9 a.m. and I'd work all the way through until 4 a.m. the next day, go home, sleep for like an hour, change my shirt, shower, and go back to the office. Now, when I reflect back, obviously that's a crazy thing to do, and there's no balance at all, especially Monday to Friday, to do things like that. But because I really enjoyed the work and I was learning a lot and I had all this other new experience around me, I actually didn't, it wasn't like I was sat in the office thinking, oh, do you know what, I hate being here, because I actually enjoyed it. So just to say that even if you're doing a job, of course, you're not going to enjoy it 100% of the time. But if you can change or switch something, if you're really not enjoying it, it does make a big difference. Cool. So should we conclude?
Daniel, any last words?
Yeah.
I would just say have something in the week that just you look forward to, or that can give you a change of environment. For me, it was the cinema, but everyone has something. It could be sport, like only playing football, but just do something that's different to your routine that allows you just to unwind and just to relax and take your mind away from work.
Relax.
You laugh at the cinema, but trust me,
Until you've
been to the cinema by yourself, don't talk to me, because it's when you go to the cinema, why do you want someone next to you to ask you what just happened? What happens next? I'm watching the same film as you. Be quiet.
My problem is not you going cinema by yourself. I've been to the cinema myself. My problem is going cinema to sleep.
Unless you've tried it. Has anyone tried it? Has anyone been to the cinema and slept?
I have.
Trust me, it's beautiful.
There's a reason. The thing is, you have a bed at home. Why don't you go sit down?
No. Listen, P, when you're in a cinema, all blacked out room, yeah? When you've eaten and you've got a drink, you got one of them Tango slush puppy things, yeah?
What kind of alcohol? I thought you meant alcohol.
No. I'm driving. And then you got extra legroom seat. And you got the
my.
Listen. It's so nice.
How does that beat your bed?
Because it's a different position. You're sitting upright, so you know when it's like
No,
you're just sitting down, you fall asleep. No. P. No. I'm not talking about not asleep when you're on your bed horizontal. It's the nap slightly reclined, and you just nod off, and you're gone.
Daniel, can I
Not
just
head
ask, just for the listeners, and I'm sure they're curious as well. When was the last? Because it sounds like you were missing that experience, man. When was the last time you went to the cinema on your own and you had that nap? Because it sounds like it's been a couple of years now.
Yes,
but if
before
he
I got
does-
married.
If he doesn't know exactly,
And that's before I got married. But I know some people that run away from there, like, well, I just go to the cinema and watch a film. But it's
Run
like
away, you know. Run away.
yeah. No, but even with Melissa, I've
Yeah.
been to the cinema on multiple occasions and fallen asleep. Not because I haven't looked forward to the film. Have you got until I've got to the point where you're watching something, your eyes are closing, and I said to myself, from now on, I'm not gonna fight it.
Yeah, Jesus,
just
take
sleep.
me now.
I would just sleep. I think there was one film, it was La La Land. 10 minutes in, I was out. I woke towards the end, everyone was clapping, so I just joined in.
Does Melissa know to wake you up now? She knows.
Yeah, she knows to wake me up, and I tell her if I start snoring, just nudge me. But I think it's only once I've started snoring. That was back in 2007.
Daniel, the more I visualize it, the more it just looks sad, man.
No, but it
you
gives
like, but
Daniel
trust me,
energy. Gives
it
Daniel
is, man.
energy, mate. Unless we've tried it, we can't comment like that, please.
It's like a 2-hour nap.
I stopped going
No, I
cinema
think-
after 10 p.m. because of
No,
that.
but I think what I'm saying is you're tired. I understand that, and why don't you go home and go to bed, man?
Okay, sorry. So maybe I'm not giving the full picture. You're not okay. I haven't been to the cinema intentionally tired and thinking I'm going to sleep. I've never had that intention.
Okay.
But you know when you've been busy, and then you sit down. That's when your body then realizes that it's tired. Like you could be out all day, then you get on the train home and you fall asleep on the train. I'd be out busy all week. I finally sat still. Now my brain is switching off and just relaxing. My body now feels as though it needs to rest, and then I fall asleep. I haven't gone to the cinema. I'm like, 2-hour nap in the back. It's more of I'm looking forward to the film, and sometimes I've been annoyed because I'm looking forward to the film, but then I just fall asleep. Whew. So yeah, I haven't got a book. The book, if you want to find the book, go on netflix.com, log into my account.
Wait. Are you serious right now?
Can I just say when I tried this with When They See Us, I was like, oh, we'll do another episode. That episode never came, and I had to think of a book review on the spot. So I hope you treat this the same way.
Okay, so no, it's not Top Boy, but it's not a book. It does fit quite well into what we've been discussing, and I don't know, on Netflix there's a documentary series, and it's called Inside Bill Gates. Has anyone watched it yet?
Yes, I started watching.
I've seen the trailer for that. It looks good.
Okay,
I
so
watched
it's
the first episode.
So it's a 3-part Netflix docu-series, and it's called Inside Bill's Brain, Decoding Bill Gates. And I watched that this week actually, because we've been talking a lot about work-life balance, and anyone that's kind of influential, instrumental, whether it be Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, or whoever. It's always nice to see, what they were like, in their upbringing. How have they become, to our perception of successful?
Yeah.
And how do they manage their time? What are their relationships been like with their spouse, family, and how did they become what they are now? Because we know it's not overnight. It's a series of habits done well, executed daily, in order to achieve where they are now. So, I watched this, and I definitely didn't expect to find so much information about Bill, because I don't think it was, we hear a lot about him, but not because of, it's more linked to Microsoft, etc. And one thing you find out is he had a huge interest in, diarrhea.
Oh yeah,
Diarrhea. He didn't understand why. I think
so many people were
dying from diarrhea, and typically in poverty areas, so in Africa, in Asia. I didn't understand how, for him, just diarrhea, which is easily curable in the West, people were suffering and dying from it. And as you find out, I want to go into detail, but also I don't, because people may not have watched it and are watching it or want to watch it. But he talks about, from being on, various trips, like latrines, so sanitation, diarrhea, polio, and he really wants to put an end to such challenges in third world countries, and it's put in a spotlight for the first time in my eyes from Bill. And even at the same time, it talks about his relationship with his mum and how he was as a child, And you learn very quickly that he was very rebellious and very antisocial. I think he mentioned for months he wouldn't speak to anyone, to his family. He'll be locked in his room and he'll just be reading books. That's all he loved to do, read books. His sister described his room as a complete mess. And it's just going into this information about him. So yeah, about his mum, he didn't have a close relationship with his mum in his early years, and it was complicated by his behavior. And then later on in the episode, and as the series goes by, you understand the impact that his mum had on his development into functioning into society, because without her, I don't think he would be the person he is today. And in each episode, it kind of contrasts the different things or aspects of his, history and relationship, along with his focus on modern day philanthropy. And they often bounce around. I think that might be deliberate, because in his mind, it's described as very chaotic, and he likes his mind, or his wife, Melinda, describes his mind as being very chaotic. And it talks about his starting of Microsoft, how he went to Harvard, he didn't finish, and how he started Microsoft at 20. And from a very early age, he was advising a lot of older people, going into interviews and things to help on complex situations. And then two people turn up and they realize these two are kids, but they were given time of day to understand. And he was given a challenge one summer he went to an all boys school. Scheduling. So the scheduling. So they integrated it from the boys to have girls as well. But then there were certain criteria that certain teachers couldn't teach for 4 lessons in a row. People had these options. History or physics was compulsory. Certain, how when you choose your options at school, you have the schedule of put it into blocks. And this was all done by hand. But then as they got more students, it got very problematic. So he was then tasked, said, Bill, can you solve something? Then it got 2 weeks before the term, and he hadn't done anything yet. Well, he had tried something, but it failed. Then he asked another friend to help, and they managed to do it quickly. Other schools were asking him to do something. Other businesses were asking them to come and solve complex situations for them programmatically. So you learn about how he developed as a child. And one thing that stood out to me was, I've got things written down. He has something called a think week. So these think weeks, he started in the early 90s, where he would go away in Washington, Hudson River, New York, somewhere in Washington, I forgot the name. And he would take a load of technical papers and books and really read about the future, really read about how to tackle situations and the future. And he would see this as like a CPU, like this is his processing time, and everything he's reading is a bit of code into solving the problem. And he loves these things because he, as I said, very much chaotic. But this was his time to, as Melinda described, to sit down and think. And this is when he came up with his best ideas.
That's amazing.
And he carried it on. So now he thinks of his whole life as a think week, rather than just those periods of time during the week. And one thing that's remarkable and astonishing is he's able to read 150 pages in 1 hour. And
you're jealous. I can't hear you.
It's all about the technique.
So
yeah, that's true. Yours is just look at the front page and the last page, right?
So he would read like 300, 400 page books in a couple of hours, like 2 hours. And I think another friend of his described his retention rate as 90%. Like he would retain all that information. And even like people said that he'll go into conversations with people that he's not an expert in, but he'll know more about it than you. And this is just how he is.
Yeah, let's not. I mean, the guy is special. I'm not saying he's not.
Yeah.
But like everything is just your level of practicing. So
he's exercised his brain to do so.
Exactly. So,
and it started from him, like you mentioned, his childhood, where he would lock himself in his room and just read books. So if you weren't doing that as a child, obviously you're not capable of doing it now. But because he's had
you catch up a little bit. Okay. A little bit.
150. So wait, 150 pages in 60 minutes.
Yeah, 150 pages in 60 minutes.
So
noted. Like
new benchmark.
Even I think growing up as a child, I think he used to just chew pencils because he was just reading and just chewing pencils. You know how some people just bite something. It'll just be chewing pencils. And when it, it gives him to how he started Microsoft, how he met Melinda, that when she was at Microsoft, how he even kind of asked her out on the first date, and how they had a second date, etc. And then how he, proposed. It got to the stage where it was either they were going to get married or they were just going to go their separate ways. Because at that point, he was focused so much on Microsoft. Microsoft was really his everything. And he's put all his all into Microsoft, that it was either to get married or they're going to go their separate ways. And it comes back, I talk about the philanthropic activities he's doing now. So one of his main aims was to eradicate polio completely. And he noticed that it was eradicated almost completely except in Nigeria. And he saw that, in fact, as everywhere else, the number of cases of polio were decreasing, Nigeria was actually going up. So they took a deeper dive into it. He went to Nigeria. He went to the northern part of Nigeria where it was quite prevalent. And he put teams in place to help reduce this. And as this went down, one thing they found was they didn't have any accurate maps of the north of Nigeria. So when they got accurate maps, they saw that some teams, especially on the borders were where they were affected, because people targeting a certain area thought that the other area were doing that border, but then that area thought the other person was doing it. So these borders were actually left untouched, and that's where the number of cases of polio were actually increasing. And then, of course, in terms of like the terrorism, that Boko Haram in Nigeria, people that were volunteering were getting killed. People that were transporting medicine were getting killed. People that, I remember a single mother of 8 who was helping give vaccinations to certain people. She was just killed. So this, put a huge halt into them combating it. And he gave himself 6 years to do it. And he plugged so much money into doing it of his own money, even when he asked for investment from, I think, high-profile universities, no one really responded. And it even talks about, I think him and, in the last episode, we're talking about health. Him and Warren Buffett were having lunch at some cafe or something. And these two love their Cokes and their sodas. Like their fizzy drinks, they love it. They love it completely. Yeah. And then...
Wait, Daniel, real quick, do you think they actually love it, or they're just part of a marketing?
They love it because... No. Warren Buffett loves it.
Americans love their sodas.
Bill said his favorite thing is hamburger. He knows it. He knew from an early age. He goes, "Oh, so much easier when I knew what my favorite food was." And like throughout the whole docu-series, he's just drinking, like in his think week, I think there were at one point 6 empty cans got Cokes just there. And him and Warren were having...
Is it the red Coke or like Diet Coke?
It was like some special kind of Coke.
It must be that
Coca-Cola, but it was like some vintage kind of can. Yeah. But in when they're having lunch, like they're having burgers, and Warren's just there, like sprinkling salt over his burger, like loads of salt. And he's not stopping. And he's like, it was like, does anyone ever tell you like you're putting too much? He goes, yeah, my daughter gets onto me. She takes pictures of me and sends it to my doctors. They're like 4 of them. And then she'll send his doctors pictures of like he's eating or whatever. And he goes, yeah, the doctors don't say anything anymore because they know I'm not going to listen. But I just say that because we spoke about health the previous episode. But yeah, Warren was like, okay, how much do you need? And he was like, okay, cool. So, what are you going to, how do you think you're going to tackle this situation? So they kind of bounce ideas off each other. And also something Bill wants to do is the sanitation, so toilets. So
sewage and everything. It
was like the sewage. So he's thought about how to not actually have waste, or how to not use energy, but not use water to sanitize the toilets, but how to create energy from it to self-function. And the whole idea is completely crazy and so phenomenal that I would encourage you to watch it.
For sure, especially the latrine, like the sewage one, is crazy because obviously with the latrines that we built, when we went to Lesotho, it reaches a point where it fills up, and now you've just got waste in there, and it's like
stinky waste,
and it's stinky waste. Kids are playing around there, and obviously in the Western society, we've got like pipes and everything that will get rid of the.
It shows the process of what happens when you flush the toilet. That new water comes in. That water, where it goes down the pipes. Gets the whole place compressed,
and how they clean it and everything like that. And you don't have that because you don't have the pipe systems in these third world countries. And to try and create that is going to cost billions to try and create that infrastructure. So it's like, how do you create technology to be able to clean it and turn it into water in certain cases, which was really interesting.
Yeah. So this the whole concept of, you know, why I wanted to talk about it is because through the docuseries, you find out about his work-life balance in terms of the hours he used to spend at work, the hours he also used to, what he used to do to downtime. So he loves tennis and he played tennis. His parents used to play tennis. And Melinda said everything that Bill's parents, they did everything together. So they will play tennis together. And I think one point he said that he spent 8 hours one day just playing tennis. So he loves, you know, when he's growing up as a family, I think he said him and 10 other families would have this whole, like, was it like a resort, or like this whole kind of resort to themselves, and they'll just play
they'll rent out like
holidays.
and there's like lots of different competitions and
10 families, they'll do different competitions and
which
stuff.
I thought was so dope.
I thought that was really nice as well. So it talks about him working so hard, but also it brings Melinda into it. Like, how did you cope with it? How did you manage, you know, Bill's ethos of working so hard? Because he didn't understand people not having the same work ethic as him until he had to take a step back and realize not everyone is like him. Like, it even comes to the point where they said that he is sometimes difficult to work with, because he'll be like, he'll say something like, "That's the most stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life." And then an hour later, he will say it again. And they're like thinking, "Bill, but you said an hour ago that was the most stupidest thing. Are you sure this thing is more stupid than the previous things?" "Yeah, I'm sure." And like, he didn't understand. Because of his mind and how he works, he's very chaotic. And someone said, Bill sees every single problem he sees life like things in his brain as an Excel spreadsheet. Everything has a spot. So he's trying to address all of these things. He doesn't try and tackle one thing at a time. He likes the chaotic mind. He likes to try and solve multiple things simultaneously. And just to conclude, like I spoke about his mum. So unfortunately, his mum died of cancer. I think it was June after he got married. And his mum really helped him get into society, you know, by how he would speak and his just whole demeanor. And later on, you find out, you know, how impactful his mum was on his life. That I think he got told, his mum passed away, and this is when he had moved out of home at a young age, and then he was driving to where his parents lived, and I think he said he was speeding. Then blue lights came on, police pulled him over, and he just said, "I'm going home. My mum's died," and he just breaks down in tears.
Wow.
And I think he said, they asked him, "Bill, you know, what's been the worst day of your life?" And he ponders for a few moments, and he said, "It was the day my mum passed away." So you really understand the impact that his mum had on him, from, even though it was quite difficult at the start, how it changed and developed. And lastly, to touch on is the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation that we all know. And Warren, I think, was the first investor of it, of pledging X amount of his wealth to it. I think for them, it was quite challenging because everyone saw it as Bill's idea. It was Bill, Melinda Gates Foundation, but Bill was at he's the spearhead of it. And it was then Bill, Melinda said to Bill, "But Bill, everyone's talking about you." And then they had a conversation. It was like, okay, you can either be, it was like, she said, "I can either be in his shadow or I can get out more and be more vocal." So that's what she did. She got out more and started doing things about empowering women, saying that, if you want to change society, change things in the world, you have to empower women, because that's how things start. It's by empowering women, because I think it's fair to say women, when they go for something, are more passionate about it than men. And I'll end on how the docuseries ended. And it was a quote or something that Mary, Bill's mum, said.
But Daniel, just
sorry.
Let me just pause on that one for a second. Just let that one sit. You said when women usually, when they go for something, they're more passionate about things than men.
Yeah, they're more on fire for things than men are. I think and I think also as men, we don't realize that as men, we like to take the lead on things. But if you ever give like your spouse or a woman something to do, they do it pretty damn well. They do it very well. And you see, like, even let's say, like, you see like Barack Obama, he empowers Michelle. And I think or for me as a husband, you have to empower your wife. You have to empower your significant other. Melissa has to empower me, but also I have to empower her, because there are so many great qualities that she has that might not naturally come up, but need to be you have to push them to sometimes put them in uncomfortable situations for them to release that imprisoned splendor. And once you do it, boy, you'll see how much they can fly. Like, think about Barack and Michelle. Since he's no longer been president, who do you hear more about, Michelle or Barack?
Yeah, Michelle's a legend as well.
Yeah. And, not to say that she was in the shadow. She's always been powerful, but she's even more powerful now.
Yeah.
And something
Last
Mary
one,
said.
just
Yeah.
quickly. This is very deep. Why did Bill say that? Why did he say it starts with empowering women?
No, Melinda said that.
Melinda, his wife.
Melinda, his wife said that. His wife said that. But he completely agrees. Because just to go back a bit, when Melinda studied maths, I think, if I remember correctly, she was, I think, one of the first females in Microsoft. She started at 23, and she was the youngest in that kind of group of what they were doing. Everyone else was like 28. She had finished uni, done her master's, done this, done that. And she was like the youngest. She was like really, like, she was precocious. She was really good at what she did. And she was just flying. She was very focused. And there were qualities in her that could easily have been just kind of squashed. But in Microsoft, she was allowed to fly. She was allowed to grow, allowed to take on challenges and opportunities. So, and I think it could be perceived as she married Bill, she's not really good as an individual, but really and truly, when she was an individual, she was really damn good. Then just because she joined Bill, you kind of think, oh yeah, it's all about Bill. Forget about Melinda. She's just there. But really and truly, when he talks about situations and challenges, she really challenges him in a way that he hasn't been challenged, and brings something to the table that he hasn't thought about. And then she just like brings a whole different dynamic, which I feel is wonderful.
I think that's great, Dan, and I think Daniel should probably wrap up because of the time.
I'm gonna end with what Mary said, and this is how the docuseries ended, and I think it's just appropriate I end it the same way. Each one of us has to start out with developing his or her own definition of success. And when we have these specific expectations of ourselves, we're more likely to live up to them. Ultimately, it's not what you give or what you get, it's what you become. So that's it.
Oh, cool.
So please forgive me that I didn't share a book, but I think, this is wonderful, because P looks like, boy.
Even like Daniel, even with like the latrine one, she was like the latrine one. She was saying that how, okay, what are you gonna do for like pregnant women or people with kids? Where they're gonna look like, where they're gonna keep the kids whilst they go in?
So I know we want to say, she was like, when it came to the toilets, building like these latrines, she was like, women will not use it if someone can see over the top.
Yeah.
If I'm going and I've got children, I'm not leaving my child outside whilst I use the toilet. There needs to be space for them. All
so
of these
he started thinking about stuff that he hadn't thought of. Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. No, cool. So wrap up, Daniel.
So thank you very much for listening to Work-Life Balance. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can take some things. Work-life harmony. I hope you can take some things from it. Even if you've got anything that's worked for you that you can recommend to us as well. We're all ears. As always, any feedback, please hit us up on Instagram at TakeFlightPodcast or email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. It's been a great week. It's been a pleasure. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Peace.